9 morning to you, watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne.
Let's go through the newspapers now, and joining us this morning, Liz Kershaw and Oscar Reddrop. And we're starting with you, Liz, talking about the number of cancer patients and their waiting times, I think.
Yeah, I've got a small pile on my breakfast bar now of missives from the NHS saying, come for this screening, come, you reach a certain age, come for this screening. 3 different types of screening, and I'm thinking, people are nagging me, yes, I should do it, but then I think, well, what's the point? And I'll sit here worrying. And it says here, the proportion of patients seen as cancer specialists within 2 weeks following a referral is now the worst on record since records began in October 2009. Some 251,977 patients were urgently referred to see a consultant in September, but just 72% of them achieved this on time.
Is that because of the sort of post-pandemic thing?
I should imagine.
During the pandemic.
It's the NHS backlog.
The backlog, yes, exactly.
Yeah. It says that suspected cancer should be diagnosed or have cancer ruled out within 28 days. Every 4 weeks of delay starting cancer treatment can reduce survival by 10%. So it's really scary if you take a test and need to be sorted, need to be investigated, and then you're sitting there thinking, well, when? This is like I'm sitting here, it's literally possibly eating away at me. Or you might be just missing out on peace of mind because it's not. Somebody very close to me has recently been referred by their doctor for investigations, and everybody who knows me has said, well, thank goodness he's in France because it's so much better there. That's a real indictment of the NHS. But it's something I do have to agree with because having experienced the health service in France, it's superb.
Well, yes, but you can't. I have to say, Liz, I'm a bit surprised that you say, well, I'm not going to do anything about these. You can't live shoving your head in the sand isn't going to help you either, is it?
I wonder what you're going to say. No, it's not, and I will get on to it. But the pandemic made me think, when you're locked up, you can't see a GP. You still have trouble seeing one in person. So I've just been thinking,
this is exactly the terrifying thing about that backlog. And when I was at number 10, Steve Barclay was there, and who's now the health secretary, and the NHS backlog to that man is just the ultimate priority. So I do actually have a bit of faith that, of course, the NHS is is always like a contentious issue and always feels like the impossible problem to solve. But specifically in terms of making the way through clearing that backlog, that is almost his sole job now in terms of priority list. So I think there's perhaps reason to be hopeful in time. But.
Yeah, it's going to take a while. Sticking with the Telegraph, Oscar, looking at veterans on benefits.
Yeah, it's pretty grim on a day to talk about a story like this today of all days. So I think more former members of the armed services now claiming benefits. I think it's gone up to around a fifth in the last year. So I think that's on around the 40,000 mark, which is obviously very troubling, very sad. You would hope, and again, I'm kind of just doing PR for government ministers, but I mean this very sincerely. So Johnny Mercer, who is the the Veterans Minister, he's a perfect man for the job. I don't think he would have accepted any other job in government. He's not someone who'll I'll do a bit of health, or I'll do a bit. He is solely interested in this issue, and I think he is the perfect person to try and remedy
Is there a rise in the number of veterans on benefits?
Well, I think there's a connection to the general kind of economic climate we're seeing, and again,
but there's also, to be fair, with veterans, and especially if they've been in for quite some period of time, as well as often with some mental health issues, but it's readjustment into civilian life is very difficult.
Yeah, and Johnny Mercer again talks about mental health and the relationship with specifically mental health suffering within the veteran community, and it's so complicated and it can be so devastating. So I think again the fact that the government via Johnny understand that as well I think is very important to solving this. But I just thought it was a sad story.
There has to be a better way, doesn't there, than just putting people on benefits anyway. There has to be a proper support.
Absolutely, and the mental health thing's really connected to that, because the people who serve their country are like, not only that, I mean, they're hardworking, they're competent, they're patriotic. Like these are some of the like our most brilliant people in a way. So if you can help with that mental health issue, I think that sometimes distances them from
which we put them through.
Yeah.
Yes, perfectly put. Exactly.
They should be prioritised, really, as you say.
Spot on.
They're the very people we want more of, really.
Oh, it's a very moving service it will be today, because I've been to it before. I can't get there in time, but on the cliffs between Dover and Folkestone at the Battle of Britain Memorial, which is a really awe-inspiring place anyway. You can see all the vista of the Channel and imagine the skies in 94. But there's a service today for November the 11th, and of course it's at the 11th hour, 11 o'clock, and it's open to the public, so I'd love to be at that if you're down there.
Oh yeah, let us know if you're going to that today. Fascinating. I mean, it's beautiful how it's marked, the memories that it evokes in people. Let's have a look at The Guardian. Liz, your favourite paper, the T20.
Yeah, you may have noticed that I never normally
Pick The
pick The Guardian, but I want to fly the flag for British sports. We're talking so much about what's wrong with the country today, and because there is a lot wrong. But let's not forget that this weekend, our sporting heroes of representing this nation down under, the England cricket team are in the final of the T20 World Cup, and the women's rugby team are in the final playing the Kiwis in the Rugby World Cup. So in Australia and New Zealand, so let's root.
And in America, our tennis players have been doing really well in the Billie Jean King Cup.
Oh, I didn't know that.
First time in 41 years, we've got through to the final, I think it is.
And England's going to win the Football World Cup. We're going to win.
Really?
No, I think we will. I genuinely think we will.
Do you?
I think it's going to happen. I think, semi-final, final, back-to-back tournaments. I think the expectation's a little bit lower because players are a bit out of form. I think we do well when the expectation's actually a bit lower. I just think it's going to happen. Come on.
Come in.
guys.
There you go. Well, I could say you're a bit deluded, Oscar, because according to The Sun, a lot of people, and you perhaps included, if you've got a crush on John Major now...
Liz, you have to own up. Liz almost made me pick this story today.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you went to number 10.
Liz wants to basically use it as a vehicle to discuss who the best...
Who's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because John, the new series of The Crown is out now. I was binge watching it the other day, and that's the man who plays John Major, and so far the episodes have been all about him, really. But he is an unlikely heartthrob.
He's hot, is he?
I don't say it, but...
Apparently viewers are falling in love with him. It's just great. Everything about him is
I'll tell you
great.
what's interesting, because if you remember back in the day, the spitting image puppet of John Major was just grey. And then I remember as a young radio reporter going to interview John Major when he was Prime Minister, or Vox Pop him anyway, in Nottingham. And the one thing that struck me was, this man is really grey. He's just grey. He just seemed absolutely grey. Not just the look of him, but everything about him was grey. It was really strange.
Did he have sexual magnetism?
Not that I noticed. No.
Well,
as a 19-year-old or whatever I was at the time.
Edwina Curry.
I know.
She liked him, didn't she?
I know.
But who do you think's hot? Who do you think's hot then in politics? I mean, there was a big discussion outside about
Who's hot and who's not?
Boris Johnson's, should we say, private life. I'm not being indiscreet now. I won't give anything away. But I cannot see that at all.
Power,
I can't.
isn't it? It's power.
Power, right. So who do you think?
I just think, I tend to think politicians, on the whole, are just, there's something not attractive about politicians.
Brutal.
Quiet.
No, but...
Be careful. Esther and Philip have just walked.
I know.
I'm sure Matt Hancock will do a shower scene.
No, I don't want to see him.
Well, I mean, if you're going to say anyone, I mean, Johnny Mercer was a hot. He did the advert for Head and Shoulders or something, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, fair.
Who's the one? Who's the male MP for the Isle of Wight? He's got a massive constituency. It's 115,000 people.
No, I should know that, but I don't.
But I saw him the other day and I thought, oh, Leslie Phillips style. I thought, oh, ding dong.
Tony Blair was very, in his day, he was very attractive, wasn't he?
I didn't used to think so. seen him
Bob
on
Seeley.
screen. I thought he was quite. Anyway, when I met Tony Blair,
Bob Seeley.
and I thought, wow. He
Really?
came across the room at Downing Street, and he picked me out,
Okay.
and then it was like nobody else. He was just talking to me for 8 minutes, nobody else. And then the next day in The Guardian, it was saying, some jealous person who'd been there was saying, Tony Blair, was straight in talking to Liz Kershaw, and he should realise that she's a viper in his bosom because she's a friend of Charles Kennedy. And I thought, you just don't. But I really sensed that. And somebody said to me, Bill Clinton,
Yes.
even though not classical handsome, if you met Bill Clinton, it was the same.
Absolute charisma.
Yeah. Yeah, so I can understand that.
Justin Trudeau's gorgeous, isn't he? Oh, I thought he was absolutely
Got
beautiful.
tattoos and everything.
And everything. Piercings.
No, nothing wrong with a tattoo. Anyway, on that note,
Get into this
we're going
subject.
to leave it. Get these two, honestly. But it's Kershaw mainly.
This is one for you guys, please. GBViews@gbnews.uk. Is there any such thing as a sexy politician? If so, please tell us. Who? Name and shame.
Name and shame.
Not Macron, he's only up to my shoulder.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's not good, is it?
No.
Anyway, I was going to say something else, but I won't. GBViews@gbnews.uk. Thank you both. I'd say it's been a pleasure. But, there you go.
Ah, goodness. Thank you very much.